Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Cindy Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And oh baby, is it ever Monster Fucker February?
Yeah.
Ain't it just that month right now?
It sure is. I almost, especially this week it is, you know?
Especially, this is the apex of, this is the most literal interpretation that you will see here this month for Monster Fucker February. And if you haven't seen the movie, then that's okay. Actually, go ahead and listen to this one. Get spoiled, girl. I don't care.
Well, okay. Actually, I feel like it's a both-y situation because when we introduced this movie last week, Monica and I shared that we both had read a bonkers batshit review written about it before we ever saw the movie.
Synopsis.
And I would say that makes for much easier watching of the movie, but I also am jealous of Sydney, who we made go in blind, but she seems to have hated it, so I don't know if you should be jealous.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. About an hour into this movie, I forgot that we were doing Monster Fucker February, and
that
I was like,
the point, yes.
And then I was like, I literally forgot that was our theme. I was like, rivers, yeah, like this is great.
Our confluence.
And then I looked at Taylor and I go, oh no, and he's like,
oh wait,
what? And I was like, we're doing Monster Fucker February.
I'm
and he's
remembering
like,
this is a Monster Fucker movie.
Yeah, babe. When you sent that text that was like, I'm 40 minutes in and
I don't know why yet, but I'm scared.
I'm scared that this is for Monster Fucker February. Okay, well, we're now like a whole minute plus into this episode. Let me tell you what the movie is. We are doing the 2009 instant abomination Splice. And it is, we did a scientific experiment actually on this episode, and unfortunately Sydney was the test subject.
Hated that.
But I was also a test subject too, and I think that Chelsea was also a test subject too, but we had different we needed a
control.
Circumstances. Exactly. We needed a control, and we were testing a hypothesis. The hypothesis is that if you read the Boner's plot synopsis of Splice before seeing Splice, does that increase your experience seeing the movie, or is it better to go in blind? And what I've learned is that I've seen the movie twice. I could handle it both times because I knew what was coming, and I had a little bit of a hee hee ha ha about it because I was not, I didn't have to be like, what incarnation? No one said what incarnation with such desperation, actually. But Sydney, on the other hand, did not have, there was nothing to prepare her. The first time maybe ever she's gone into a movie completely blind, because usually she reads a plot synopsis. And look at the horror in her eyes. If you're on YouTube, you can see it.
I didn't even know that this movie existed. I have never heard of this movie before.
That's crazy. It stars 2 Oscar winners.
2?
Sarah Polley and Adrian Brody. I don't know what Sarah Polley won for. I have to look that up, but I just saw that on IMDb trivia.
I'd never seen this bitch before in my life, and I've never seen her again, and that's fine with me.
She's in Dawn of the Dead, which is cool, but I also haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, I was like, what? No, I haven't seen it. Oh, there's a picture of her right now with her Oscar. Good for her. She looks gay. Is she gay? Someone find out.
I saw her IMDb picture, and I was like, gay?
Gay?
She's wearing a tuxedo.
She has not acted. Wait, stop. She did this role in 2009. Then she did one more role in a movie called Trigger in 2010, and she has not acted since.
That was it. She said, I've reached the pinnacle of my career.
I did.
And I don't need to do anything else. I've accomplished everything I need to accomplish. I won an Oscar, and I was in the movie Splice.
She directed women talking. That's what she won the Oscar for, I think. That was like a huge Oscar nominee like 2 years ago in 2022, 3 years ago. That's so funny. That's so funny to me. I'm so sorry. That's so funny that she went from Splice to this. I'm sure
To
she was directing
Oscar.
all along. She's been directing since 1999. So had been doing that thing, but she was like, you know what? I'm gonna come back to acting for a second here to do the most horrific film of all time.
She was called to it. She couldn't resist. How could she say no?
Well, I mean, maybe this log line was part of the reason why she was so enticed to become a part of this project. I'll read it now. Wasn't that so smooth? It's the smoothest IMDb log line we've ever done.
Honestly, incredible.
Ruining it immediately
I
by
googled Sarah
acknowledging
Polly
that.
gay, and it says no, Sarah Polly is not gay.
What the
You
fuck?
don't know her like
What?
I know her.
Okay, but she looks super gay. Always
She
so
could be. It
confusing
just
when
as
that
she's
happens.
married to a man, and lots of gay people can be married to men.
Exactly.
So
Just by
I choose
beautiful
to
pan by queen.
not assign her a sexuality. She can pick her own, but in my heart, I know it's true.
She's bringing that energy. Anyway, the log line reads Genetic engineers Clive Nicoli and Elsa Cass. So important to say their names in the log line, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Hope to achieve fame by successfully splicing together the DNA of different animals to create new hybrid animals for medical use. True. Very true.
That login sucks.
It's true that all those things are true. This is kind of more
That
of like
is
the beginning of the plot synopsis.
true, but you're not telling me that much about what the movie is about or selling me on it.
They don't
So-
want you to know what the movie's about, Chelsea.
The only
Let
information
me
I
sell
need
you
is
on
the
it.
full names of the main characters. I'm in.
Exactly.
I'm gonna sell you
Firsty
on it right
Lassies.
now. Okay.
Her name? Elsa Cast. Are you ready?
Are you Clive Nicoli? Are you interested in
I'm
that?
in.
Is he
I'm-
Italian? He might be Italian.
He might be Italian.
I'll do a better one right now. What happens when two self-important people read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and want to do it themselves? Is so I read this whole article that was like, I read articles for these things all the time, and sometimes they're really good, and sometimes I'm like, this is just an article where they said anything that anyone could ever think ever, like the most obvious thing in the entire world, just for fucking clicks. It was like, did you know what Frankenstein is? Do you know what happens in this movie? They're similar.
Oh, I have
and I was
two
like,
sentences that I need
whoa!
to write to answer the primary question of this
Whoa!
article, and then I need to write
It was
1,000
4
more
paragraphs.
words to search engine optimize this article. And so I'm going to go, what is Frankenstein? Who is Mary Shelley? Who played Mary Shelley in the
Infuriating.
Frankenstein movie? Her name was Elsa.
infuriating read.
Why is that relevant? Yeah.
But yeah,
But
it's
if
a
that
modern
wasn't an
Frankenstein.
article, that is an Easter egg. Is there was a Frankenstein movie a bazillion years ago, and whatever the actors were in it, they played like Mary Walsh. Let me just pull it up so that I am not doing lies. The main scientist characters, Clive and Elsa, are named as an homage to Bride of Frankenstein 1935, a similarly themed movie. Colin Clive played Dr. Henry Frankenstein, while Elsa
Ooh.
Lancaster played Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley / the Bride.
Oh,
So that's where the names are an Easter egg to Frankenstein as well.
We should do Bride of Frankenstein sometime. That shit is camp as all hell.
It's so
Slay.
good.
It's so good. It's crazy good. Ugh. Okay. Well, honestly, I'm sorry that you had such a terrible time, Sydney. But I understand.
No, I'm
'Cause
jealous
this
of
is-
your time. I wanna
Everything
be
that
having
happens
time.
in this movie is so terrible. But it
It's
is
so bad.
when you can remove the emotional part from this, when you can look at it as a piece of glorified trash, and you know that it's gonna do like the most heinous shit that maybe some not ever seen on screen, but it's like up there in
When
the
you can look at
pantheon
it
of horrible
from-
shit.
Art for Monster Fucker February only. It really is high class.
Honestly, no. It is really interesting though that everything is a dick in this movie. I thought that was something
The
that we should
slugs
dive
in
into.
the beginning, my God, they're disgusting little
They are
penises.
such
Yeah.
nasty little chody penises. It's so weird. And even baby Dren, when like she's the first iteration coming out of that fake womb thing, she looks like a penis too.
I thought she looked like a
Everything's a penis.
sperm.
true. But it had like a head part of it that looked like the tip of a cut penis. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is so interesting. It's so interesting because Vincenzo Natali, who did this movie, who also did all the Cube movies, by the way. Have you heard of those?
No.
So the Cube is from, it came out in 97 and I've wanted to see it for forever, but it's like got not Hellraiser vibes necessarily, but it's like a sci-fi kind of horror in the way that this is a sci-fi horror. I was gonna say like this. It's not like this. I don't think. I don't know. I hope nothing
I
like
think
this
it's
happens in the
exactly
cube.
like this. I have
But I
to
think you get
assume.
like kidnapped and you wake up in this cube and it's like something that like moves around and like if you make a wrong move you could die, that sort of a thing. And apparently it was an inspiration for Saw later on.
Oh, that's so interesting
those
because the guy who
sort of
plays Adrian
vibes.
Brody's brother in this movie is in Saw 5.
Oh no way.
Hank
Wow.
is his character's name.
Wow.
I don't
But-
recall who that is. I don't remember which one Saw 5 is, but I can imagine which one it might be.
It's just, I mean, it's not like it's not like a small amount of work went into this movie, but I think that's why it's so horrifying. Literally, this was Vincenzo's idea for like a decade, and he was working towards it for
Really
a whole
close to his
decade.
heart, I
And
think.
he was so passionate about it. And, and I'm like, okay, dude, I don't ever want to meet
Oh.
you, man. I don't ever want to meet you, man. But good for you, I guess. It's like, this is like Robert Eggers with Nosferatu, is Vincenzo Natali with Splice. Oy. I think one. Okay, I didn't know Sarah Polley was Oscar award winning. But okay, here's something else I wanted to look at. When
Sure,
did
tell me.
The Pianist come out?
1998, I want
Oh,
to
is
say, but that could be too
long
early.
ago? I think
don't
that's
know.
way too.
Actually, that
I
could be
was
making
not.
that
I
up.
didn't. 2002. I didn't have a brain in my head in 1998. To be so honest, I was 5, but I remember Adrian Brody winning the Oscar for The Pianist.
Mm.
So I was like, how soon after his Oscar win did he stoop so low as to
Oh my
be
god,
in
he did
Splice?
this after his Oscar.
Well,
Yes,
I
he
will
did this after his
say-
Oscar, but it was like 7 years after, so that's enough time for him to.
Yeah. When I
know.
was doing my research for this movie, which is to say, when I was trying to remember why we were like Adrian Brody's bad, because I realized I actually couldn't remember why.
Oh, there's multiple reasons.
Yeah, and I found some of them.
Oh yeah, let's get
But
that
I was
out of the way.
Googling like Adrian Brody canceled, Adrian Brody controversy, trying to just refresh my memory. And I did find several Reddit threads that were like, why did Adrian Brody disappear from us from acting after he
Because
got
he
his
did
Oscar? Did he
Splice.
just So he's not interested in like mainstream fame, and there's like a zillion articles now about his like path to the return to the Oscars with The Brutalist, and maybe he's back on the trajectory, which maybe means 8 years from now we could get Splice 2, which I'm really crossing my fingers for personally.
Ooh.
But
they really set it up for a sequel. Oh my god,
they
I
cheated
forgot
up.
about that.
So
We're not ready. We're not ready.
Okay,
I'm not
I
ready.
do. I want to go over there's like 4 main things
yeah, hit
that
us.
Okay.
Adrian Brody is problematic for.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
The Pianist is a Roman Polanski film, and he is like an ardent supporter of a child molester. So that big.
Oh, that's so cool. Really thematic with the movie.
And then it was, if he won his Oscar, if that came out, so he won it in
2003 probably.
At that exact Oscar thing, he like randomly kissed Halle Berry,
Oh yeah.
and she was like,
That was
she
one
did
of the
not want
things.
it. She
It was
was
like he won the Oscar and she was presenting and he just like
yeah, and
Oh.
yeah, and she was like very uncomfortable about it.
and at the
Yeah.
time everybody was kind of just like, oh my god, he got swept up in the moment, how crazy is that? But then during all of the Me Too stuff, everybody was like, remember when he did that? What was that about? And it seems like
You
they're
can't
still
just kiss any
Right.
woman that's near you when you're excited.
yeah. And she said some
Sorry.
sympathetic things about it, which was basically like, I remember when I won my Oscar the year before, and the feeling you have of completely not being in your body. So it seemed like she was holding space for her friend Adrian Brody to have done something out of character. I don't know. But the Roman Polanski thing, and he also said was an apologist about Woody
Allen.
Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
And
so fun.
He's
Why
like
he's
hitting,
just
going down
that's
the
like
line.
he's like, let
And
me just. Can you
basically-
tell me about more people who've been like pedophiles? Actually, let's add them to the list.
he had this thing with SNL where he was hosting, and in
This
his
Adam told me
cold
about. Keep
opening, he wore dreads and like did a weird kind of racist Jamaican accent thing that was off script and like
Well-
not planned.
He
Okay, well,
denies that he got
correct-
banned from SNL for it though. So
Was it the cold open? Because the way that Adam explained it to me, and you probably know more than I did, is that like it was the end part, the only part that is not scripted, and like when everyone's saying like goodbye at the end, and he
Oh,
came on and did it then. And so it was even more weird that he like no one told him to do it. But
he just got like
I'm not
bored
sure.
backstage and started
Honestly,
putting costumes on.
that could be it. It could be the ending.
That
But
sounds like it's right. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
This
Though. I didn't
isn't
look
that
it up.
so
isn't that extra fucking weird? Because usually people just use that time to say thank you so much. Hi, mom. And instead he was like, let me be racist right now.
but also speaking of Elsa's, he dated Elsa Pataki for like a
Chris
really long
Hemsworth's wife.
time. Yeah. And
that?
like Chris Hemsworth,
Oh.
Thor, the actor,
Yeah, I know
they're
who
married
Chris
now.
Hemsworth is. Oh, okay.
So Elsa Pataki's his
And
wife
they
now.
have children.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But she dated Adrian Brody, great roster, I guess, for hot men. But he was like cheating on her non-stop. And
But he did buy her a castle.
he bought her a castle to like
So
apologize. And
I
then
wonder
she
if she
still
got
dumped
to
him and
keep
then married
it.
Chris Hemsworth.
did she
So
get to keep the castle? I wonder.
I don't know.
Probably not. But they did like a whole
Photo
spread
shoot in
for
front of the
some
castle.
magazine, like Vanity Fair or something. I don't know. But and then they broke up really soon after that. You know when your
Just,
boyfriend
like,
buys you
stupid
an apology
shit.
castle for having affairs.
Yeah.
That's so
like a
An affair
classic
castle?
move. Yeah. Ugh, this is my affair castle. I honestly can't wait to be rid of it.
Right? I can never go there, bad memories. I can't even go to my own castle.
Got to move to Australia.
No, it's worse. Oh no, it's worse. It's worse. It's worse. It's worse. What he did was worse. Okay, hold on. I'm just
For
gonna
which
read
part?
this. This
The
is from
affairs or the
IndieWire.
Jamaican
No, this is
accent?
the
Oh, the
SNL
SNL?
thing. This is the SNL thing. Whew. Okay, I only just skimmed this, so we'll experience it together. Hot off his award season win streak for the pianist, Adrian Brody came to Studio 8H in 2003, but things got awkward ahead of a musical performance by Sean Paul.
Oh.
When Brody ad-libbed an intro to the Kingston-born artist while wearing fake dreads and speaking in fake Jamaican patois, this reportedly promoted Lord Michaels to ban Brody forever due to his actions. And thus, it is
And now
racist
the
portrayal
like,
of Jamaican
no,
people.
I'm not banned. I
That
didn't
is-
get
Yeah.
banned for real. That's
I
just
have-
an urban legend. But
I have to say that is the worst option of the 3 placements for his racist Jamaican impression.
middle of the episode, still
were
episode left to
mid-roll.
go.
Like we were like, no, it was at the beginning. No, it was at the end.
We were like,
it's
we got bored
over.
backstage.
Wrong.
No,
No,
he said the
right
Jamaican
before
musical performer is
Sean
coming out, and I would like to do a little caricature of Jamaican people just to make him feel at home. Like, what was he thinking?
Stop. Imagine he's like does whatever he does, and then he's like, anyway, here's temperature. Like, anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Imagine
Oh
Sean
my
Kingston is just
God.
like standing there,
couldn't
like,
hear it.
excuse you?
I hope he couldn't hear. I hope that his earpiece was not set up with whatever the microphone was playing, that was piped differently. I love Sean Paul. Temperature was a very important song to me.
It was to
When
everyone.
it came out. I know, but it was my favorite. It was like my one song that was cool that I was obsessed with because I only liked old people songs at that time. Let me have this. But anyway, Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. So keep that in mind as we
Why
discuss
was
the
this
rest
man
of this.
canceled? A new segment on Spooky Tuesday.
Every
Look,
time.
I mean, we can't always get into it every time. Sometimes you just want to talk about the movie, but
I'm glad we
know.
talked
I
about
really
this
don't want to
SNL
talk
thing.
about
this
this
one
movie,
was
actually.
important. Yeah.
I honestly.
Sydney's like,
I'm
I would love to
excited.
avoid talking about the movie for as long as possible.
Well, we have to start it. We have to start it.
What do you
There are
mean?
just
Why?
there's so many
Okay.
things. There's so many things with this movie that I was watching it actually because the first time I ever watched this was like a half watch kind of thing. I think I watched it over the summer when I was doing something for the website or something. So I was like doing work and this was on the side because I was like, why not? I've read the bonus posts. I know what happens.
Why not?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be crazy, but it's gonna be fine. And so I didn't really get to like dive in to the beautiful details of this film. Some of them being the phallic nature of every animal that's in the thing. We talked about that
Mhm.
already. Additionally, Adrian Brody's character, Clive, is just so fucking misogynistic the entire fucking time. The entire fucking time. But also, Elsa's a piece of fucking shit too, in my opinion.
Yeah, she sucks.
She sucks
There
hard.
I'll let Sydney address this a little bit more because Taylor was watching with you and could speak to it a little bit, but they're not good ethical scientists, obviously.
No. Taylor,
Defo.
whose dad is a geneticist and whose sister is a genetic counselor, and Taylor, who is a physicist, was just like seething at their scientific process.
Okay, but they're not like other scientists, Sydney.
They're cool
they-
scientists, but
they're
actually they're not
cool.
cool
They're
scientists.
with
They're
a-
nerd scientists.
Scientists.
Get
Okay,
it?
they're the primo supremo coolest kind of scientists because they were on the cover of Wired, bitch.
Wired
Not
yeah.
doesn't
just
interview
any
losers.
scientist gets to have a cover on Wired. I love that that was such a huge part of the movie. And also, as part of my research, I read a Wired article about
Mhm.
this movie, and I was like, wow, it's really happening. The article left a lot of things to be desired.
Wow.
Taylor,
It felt like
before
they
we
cut off the end of it. It was really weird. It ended very abruptly. Anyway, keep going, Sydney. Sorry.
Taylor, before we started watching, was like, yeah, I read this Wired article, blah 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 blah, and then I was like, look, they're on the cover
Just you
of
wait,
Wired.
girl. Here they are, girl.
It's a scientist. Is there a what kind of website is Wired? I don't understand. Why were they? Are you okay? Chelsea's dying. It's so sad. I loved her.
Chelsea, you have aquatic lungs.
I know somebody
Breathe.
needs to drown me.
Breathe.
Oh my god. Stop. There's literally so much. Another thing that I want to touch on really quickly is how hard they were trying to make you as the viewer want to fuck Adrian Brody by putting him in these like cool guy Y2K outfits. It was so interesting to me. They really were trying to be like he's like cool and hot and he
He's
listens
not like
to
the
like
other
cool
scientists.
music. His brother's a little bit like him, but obviously less hot. And
He
so
watches
He doesn't-
his
anime.
brother
doesn't get the
He's got
nose.
big poster over his bed.
The
he's got
Taylor was like, should
a
I get that
vest.
poster over my bed? And I was like, no.
He has a
Maybe.
fucking vest. You see that vest? I'm
Yeah.
slowly disrobing as the episode goes on. I wanted to wear the vest. I wanted to dress up as him so bad for this, but I don't have the right wig, and that's
Sure.
so important. His fucking little like emo boy. I don't even know. Like early scene haircut. What was happening?
I think
What was
he was just
happening?
like alternative.
He's an alternative scientist.
He was
and
definitely seen. Know what I mean?
But this was
Like,
2010, so scene had like kind of come and passed.
no, but this is like tail end.
this is
Scene
for
was
sure
still-
tail end.
Yeah, like so
There were
it
a
was
bunch
like
of scene
still-
kids when we were still in high school.
Yeah. Like I
true.
graduated high school in 09 and there was hella scene kids.
I was going
That's
to
true.
Warp Tour in 09 and it was the biggest Warp Tour ever was.
I miss
and
Warped Tour, RIP.
Bamboozle. Oh my god, I miss it so much. They might bring it back. Yeah, I just thought that the costuming was so funny because they made him look so cunty. And then in comparison, I don't think that they did Elsa many favors. She did have that one pink camo shirt, which was a sleigh.
I did actually really love the pink camo shirt.
I want that really bad, and I've been thinking about it all day. um, but I love that they're cool scientists. They're not like other scientists because other scientists follow a moral code and they just care about helping people. Okay, they're like fuck the scientific methods, fuck the
Don't you want
law.
to cure cancer?
Don't you
want to
okay,
cure
cancer was like the last
Alzheimer's?
thing on the list. They're like, let's cure Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and blah blah blah, and maybe
maybe some
even
cancer.
cancer.
And maybe some cancer. My thing was they were talking about this will do this, and I was like, babe, big pharma is gonna assassinate you. They're never gonna let you cure all these diseases. They'll make no money off sick people.
But they're not ready to talk about that.
Like, where's Luigi when I need him?
Oh
Take
my
out all these
God.
men who want to take these scientists out.
I can't.
Well, that's a different movie. And it's very much like one I watched the other day with Jason Momoa. So I'll tell you about that later.
I can't. The thing that I thought was really interesting about this whole movie, though, that it was inspired by like a real thing, like a real scientific experiment. Have you guys heard of the Vacanti mouse?
No.
Yes.
You've probably seen it before because I had seen the image of it before, but I did not know exactly what it was, and I have a little ditty on it. Hold on. But it was basically like a nude mouse. A nude mouse. That's what it's called. Hairless.
Hairless?
He said nude. Vincenzo Natali said nude mouse in an interview.
And
Twas
that
a
feels
nude mouse.
relevant. That feels thematic.
That feels thematic. In parentheses, it says hairless. So that was definitely like whoever edited this put that in just so people would be like, what do you mean by nude mouse? But they basically like did this work on it to make it look like it had grown a human ear, but it wasn't actually a human ear. But it took place in 1996 at the Massachusetts General Hospital. And they created an ear mouse. That's what they called it. But it was
Oh,
also
I know
a man
this.
named Vacanti made it, so it's called the Vacanti mouse. Excuse me.
The
And
Vacanti mouse?
so, yeah, the Vacanti mouth. But the the naked mouse appeared to have a human ear growing out of its body, but it was not actually a human ear, but rather an ear-shaped disc that was grown using implanted bovine cells to experiment with tissue and cartilage regeneration. I just can't understand the point of this literally at all, except for them to be like, whoa, what
It
if we
was
made
to
a thing
be
that looks like
like
an ear?
prosthetics was the idea. It was so that they could
Oh.
graft ears for people who
Okay, well, that's good.
didn't
That's a
have
good
one for
thing to
whatever
do.
reason.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
And also, I'm sending you guys, somebody made a glass figurine of the Bacanti mouse, so it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I was very moved by the image of the mouse in
Oh.
general.
Okay, I do love the glass mouse.
Ooh,
The
I love the glass
figurine
mouse.
is glamorous.
I love the actual mouse too.
And
I
you
love
could own it
I
for
love
only
it.
$200. Wow.
And
A steal.
Wow, what a steal. And I understand it's an evocative image. You see a mouse that's got a naked mouse, a nude mouse,
A nude mouse.
a nude mouse with a human ear on it. That's gonna get the gears turning. And so Vincenzo saw that, and then 15 years later, Splice came out. 15 years he was percolating. He saw that mouse and he said, "This would make a great film." And he wasn't.
And he was
right.
right. I think he
He's
was
like, "This is
absolutely
my
right.
inspiration."
You're the meaning in my life.
life.
You're the inspiration. Nude Vacanti mouse. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, like, Frankenstein is a story, an age-old story that everyone is very interested in. This same sort of thing in my mind came up recently with Oppenheimer. It's like you can't, even if you can do something scientifically, whatever,
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
should you? Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And
But that's very much
especially,
not something they struggle with this in this movie. They're very much like, don't you want to know if we can?
yeah, they're
Right.
like, it's okay if we don't even get any credit for it. And I was like, that's not
Direct
true.
line,
You
don't
guys
you
are
want to just know that we can?
you guys are fucking egomaniacs.
Well, there's
Ugh.
scientists who've been on the cover of Wired, Monica. They've set a precedent for themselves that they must live up to.
They just want to help people. And by help people, they mean get on the cover of, I don't know,
More
Vogue.
magazines.
Well,
Time.
they weren't
Time
maybe
persons of the year.
this was absolutely a joke when Adrian Brody's character said it, but it was very close to being true when his brother Gavin was like, "What are you doing in there? What's your special project that you're working on?" And he was like, "We're making a little friend for you."
Right.
That part was there's so many little nods like that. Like seeing it a second time was interesting too, because like Elsa is also so fucking weird when she pulls out that DNA to the human DNA from a Jane Doe that they used to make
Oh,
the
Jane
baby
Doe. And he's
Dren.
like, "Oh,
She's like,
dime a
whoa.
dozen."
And she's like,
Could have been
yeah, that's
anybody.
yeah.
Yeah, she definitely has access in the lab to just like be flipping through the samples and pick one out for sure.
It's so
No, there's
weird.
a
And
lot. Even only watching this movie one time, having read the review, there's a lot of foreshadowing throughout
there's
the
so much
film.
foreshadowing, and it's just so interesting too. Something that I didn't really like think about as much the first time around because we were just vibing. This time I tried to turn my brain on. Only half. Only half. Like the whole conversation with like the sexist conversation that they have about like her having a child or not too,
Mm-hmm.
like between Clive and
Yeah.
Inventor of
Elsa.
Mpreg.
What'd you say?
I said inventor of Mpreg.
I don't know what that means, but I'm
It's a
sure
fan
it's really
fiction
funny.
trope where
Oh.
there's male pregnancy.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that whole conversation was so fucking icky. Cuz he was like pressuring her so much, but then it's just so interesting that and like his views about it are so obviously ass backward. I mean, they say it literally in the movie, but he's like, I can't get pregnant, it'll ruin my figure, blah 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 blah. Um, but then the fact that she is making her own child at the exact same time that they're having this conversation. It just, I don't know what they're trying to say.
She
Well,
was like,
she
maybe I
said
want a
it.
child, just not with you.
She told him, he was like, maybe we're gonna have a child one day, I don't know. And she was like, yeah, just as soon as you can carry it. So she doesn't necessarily have an issue with being a mother. She just doesn't want to be pregnant and give birth, which, that's a difficult process. So
That's
it's
true.
certainly understandable.
That's true. Okay, that's better than I was thinking that it like Vincenzo was. I'm on a first name basis with him. It's because I forgot his
Yeah.
last name. But the director was like, "Oh, but she secretly underlying it all wants a child." Ow, my cat is attacking me physically.
I
She
mean,
secretly undercover wants a child, blah 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 blah, and so she makes this other child, which I think she does, but I think she wants a child, unfortunately, because like we said, she's if not as fucked up, very close to as fucked up as Adrian Brody in this movie. And she really wants to like play out her fucking deep seated mommy issues on this
yeah.
child.
Yeah.
I would
That's
say
her science experiment.
This movie
she's more
also would have
fucked
been
up.
great for Mommy Issues May.
I know.
Yeah.
Should we
Best
go
for
back in
Monster
time and do
Fucker
this
Feb.
movie twice?
Right? Spooky Tip
I
Tuesday?
think
No.
she's more fucked up than Adrian Brody, but he is maybe a worse person than her, if that makes sense. Because
I don't
he's
know.
That totally
She's a
makes
kind of
little
sense.
a dick,
insane.
and she's like
She's a lot insane.
rehashing old trauma.
Yeah.
Not that
'Cause
that
the
makes her actions any better, but at least you understand where they're coming from, where he's just like a function of patriarchy in our world.
Totally. Well, okay, here's the thing. Here's my question. So they like own the nerd company. By the way, I think it's
No,
hilarious.
that lady owns the nerd company.
The lady
Remember,
owns a
because
nerd
when
company.
The French
it's
lady.
like we have to go to
Well, there's
phase 2 where we
funding.
make money and we stop doing science. They're like, oh, but they own the patents, so even if we left, there's nothing we could do. It wouldn't be ours.
So they fund. Okay, yeah, but it's like because I feel like it's such a fucking annoying name that like they came up with all of it and everything, but they're controlled by their funders. Is that what it is?
Yeah, basically, is those two people that they keep having the meetings with
Yeah,
is like their
the
boss
French
at the
lady
laboratory and
and
then
the other
like the head
lady.
of the company,
Yeah.
presumably.
Yeah, so that I thought was interesting just because I I was like, how the fuck are they getting away with this shit? Because they keep destroying like $1 million equipment, like a lot
Mhm.
of times, like all the time. And I'm like, how are they keeping this under wraps? But I think that they're like the head honchos of the people who work
They're
in
the
that
rock stars. They
building.
were on the cover of
They're the rock stars.
Wired. Yeah, I think it is something that is like established in the film, but not super clearly, which is because they're moving on to phase two, which is like just the chemical part of it and no longer the like biogenetic engineering part of it. They are not actively using a lot of that equipment that they're using with Dren. So that's able to like fly under the
Yeah,
radar
well,
of
they're
why
not growing
nobody's
any
like
new
what happened
babies.
to these things. Yeah.
It's literally
And
like a fake
also
womb. That one big thing is like a pseudo womb.
yeah,
The
it's
tank.
like an incubator at a NICU kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
but
so it's
it's
like
got
nobody's
water.
looking for that equipment as it's getting broken. It's not in use because they're not doing that part of the experiment anymore. But
Okay,
what
that
I
makes
think
sense.
gets lost is that they're that they keep being like, oh yeah, the whole lab is going to be converted, but seemingly they have like so much time before they move down to the storage closet downstairs and stuff like that. Like
Well,
that part I
I
think
wish
gets a little lost.
I wish there was a calendar to tell you how long all of this takes because I
Day
think that
two.
would
Right?
really add to the horror level. Like
The
how
ticking
they made it very
clock.
clear that Dren is just
Aging rapidly.
aging. Gestating is not right. She's out of the womb. She's aging very very rapidly, like days and minutes. They literally say days and
There
minutes, but
was
I'm like, what's the scale? Because how old is she when they fuck? Oh, spoiler
there
alert.
was
She's
one
so
part where
Renesmee.
Elsa was like, I remember being your age. And I was like, what, 1 week
Yeah.
old?
And also like if
Yeah.
you look at her, that's an adult woman. So
Right? But
she's your
still.
and that actress is like 2 months older than the Sarah Polly, that actress. So
Yeah. The one thing, okay, well,
but I was like, I
once,
guess she's a teenager right now, is what we're being communicated to
yeah.
us at least.
One thing I did like about this movie, though, even though it looked a little bit janky for sure, I think that the monster design was really, really interesting. I thought it was super interesting. And some of it I thought was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And
When it was a
namely,
little no
but it's
armed,
a
like
And then I had
little
his
nematode.
little
chicken.
T-Rex arms that
Yes,
started to
I
come
love
out.
it. I love it so much. It's so cute to me. Oh my god. That's the part where Vincenzo was really going in for years and years and years trying to plan this out. He's hired many people to draw different things. Um I thought it was interesting how they like brought in elements of the animals that she's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be made out of because just to recap, she's supposed to be made, or at least the dicks at the beginning. What are their names? Ginger and
Fred and
that
Ginger,
whole Fred and Ginger.
they're doing
Okay.
their beautiful imprinting dance. That's another Twilight reference.
Oh, I did love that. I thought that looked cool too.
When their tongues come out and
I like that they
intertwine.
had the weird,
When they
beautiful,
French
like.
kiss.
Feather
Speaking of,
tongues a little bit.
shout out Tom. They remind me of Haunting of Connecticut with the fucking. Anyway, if you don't know what that means, then it's in the trailer, Chelsea, so it wasn't a spoiler.
I've seen that
The
movie in theaters. I guess I didn't file any of it away. I walked out and I went, that was
ectoplasm.
dumb. And then I
Yeah.
just
Oh no, it was
and I
part of the
erased
part
it.
that I thought was dumb too. Sorry, Tom. We'll do it eventually. But anyway, so those guys are supposed to be made up of this, apparently. A salamander, a kangaroo, maybe not a kangaroo. This is what she's supposed to be
No,
made
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah.
A
That's what IMDb trivia
salamander,
says too.
a kangaroo, a bird, a fish, a horse, and a stingray. So I don't know if they had like kangaroo and horse in
The legs are
fucking
very
gin.
kangaroo.
Yeah, yeah. No. I meant in our
Oh,
little dick worms, and our dick worms don't have any legs, so I don't think that that's a part of it. I wish that I had thought to go back and screenshot the part when they literally show what animals are in it in a little beautiful photo image on a computer
It's
screen.
going to be the same animals that are in Dread, and the only thing that they added was the human DNA.
Oh, okay, then it's the same thing. But I was looking into it, and I don't care. We're gonna just say what happens the entire time because I'm gonna not bring this up later if I don't.
This is a movie that I think benefits from being spoiled.
Right?
You're gonna have a smoother
Well-
time if you are spoiled.
I do think they do some good things well, and I think that it was like obvious, of course, but sometimes almost all foreshadowing can be super obvious because it's foreshadowing and it's telling you what's going to happen later. That's what foreshadowing is. But when is the word hermaphroditic? Is that what it is? No, that's when they have both genders.
No, but it's like
When they switch
That
genders,
might be
Yeah.
used to refer.
it might be
Let me look up
hermaphroditic.
sea bass.
Sea bass is one of them. So yeah, I was like, what
Yeah.
of those animals is hermaphroditic? And it's the fish. That is where the hermaphroditic part comes from because there are several different species of fish, specifically in the wrasse family.
Ooh. And I know like lizards and geckos and stuff like that can do it as well as like slugs and snails.
Same as in
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, if you'll recall.
Frogs.
Banana slugs famously also hermaphrodites.
Sea turtles can too, which I did not know. According
Ooh.
to treehugger.com, which is the source that I found to tell me about this. It's a great listicle. But yeah, I think that there are some things about this movie that are very interesting. I think that that's a fucking
There are a lot of it.
I think it's a fucking sleigh twist. I think
He
it's a
had
fucking
his 10-year
sleigh.
magnum opus that he was percolating on the whole time.
The way it shook out is horrific, but I do think that it's a sleigh twist. I wish I didn't have to ever see it, probably. But like even that part when Ginger and Fred fucking go at it, and it's that bloodbath when they're doing their presentation to all of the scientists. And they just attack each other. I have to say, like, early nom for Brother being dumb bitch because, like, your whole job is to maybe see if the worm turned into a boy.
But here's the thing, he was telling them, he was like, hey, like something like one of them has low estrogen
levels.
like, and he was like letting them know, and they were just like, okay, whatever, like they weren't paying attention.
They had that fight when Adrian Brody
but I
came
feel like
back
he could have
in.
made a
He
bigger
was like,
stink.
why didn't you say anything? And he's like, I logged it all in the logs, which you were not reading because you were busy with your other project, so you could grow her up and then fuck her later.
Fair, but also I feel like it should have, like, I just don't understand the structure of this place. Maybe it was 3 days. Maybe the timeline is really, really, really fast. But anyway, I think
it's just one of those things where business is interfering with the science, and also the head scientists are distracted with other scientific projects. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So they're like conforming to this business timeline, and they have to do the presentation to get the funding if they want to keep doing anything at all. And so it's like everything is riding on everything going well, which means there's no time for things to not go well, which means we're just like closing our eyes and pretending that everything is great.
So interesting. Science.
And this is actually this is setting us up for another movie that we're going to be doing down the line. But there's a lot there's a lot of this movie with next week, and there's a lot of this movie with the movie we're going to talk about in April.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of sorry, I'm gonna spoil that a little bit now too because I'm gonna forget otherwise. Because fucking Guillermo del Toro was a producer on this fucking movie.
When I saw that in the intro credits, I was like, oh damn! And then especially with all the fish tank stuff when she's swimming around in the tank, I was like, well,
no, 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 is coming next week. We'll get there. I couldn't believe that though, because this is doesn't have his vibes. It doesn't have the Guillermo vibes, but he's just a producer.
He loves monster fucker movies. What do you mean?
I know,
it's
but
right
like
the tone.
It's exactly
the tone,
his vibe.
The tone. I'm talking tonally.
This isn't his aesthetic.
Yeah, it's not his aesthetic at all. But I'm sure he'd love Adrian Brody's sexy emo boy costuming like I did. But yeah, I loved the creature design as it played out because one, like we said, I love little tiny baby kangaroo Dren. Cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was so adorable. But something that I thought was really interesting is that like once they cast what's her name? Delphine how do you say that?
I think
Chin
she's French Canadian.
Cheniac? She's French. Yeah, they had to basically cast someone who is French for this movie because it was a French Canadian crossover production and it was one of the like requirements of the production that they had to like cast from like Canadian or French people specifically. Anyway, they had like a like
I think Sarah Polly might be Canadian, but I'm not sure.
well, she's specifically French, so I know that I don't know, the part that I read, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, she was like the first person that they had come in for this role. And she just like really nailed the physicality that they were looking for on this character, which is like a huge part of it. I think she does slay it. But then they incorporated her eyes into like every iteration of Dren as she grows up because she has such like distinctive eyes. And I think it was an interesting combination that they did of like prosthetic makeup and CGI. Yeah, because they did do quite a bit of prosthesis. Like, they obviously move Delphine's eyes out to the side later on in the movie as she is older, but like, you know, it's her physically moving around. They just had her also wear like big blue fucking thigh pads to like make her legs look up higher because she has like slightly different like the way her legs like fit with her body were different than in real life. That as you might imagine, she doesn't have hands for feet.
Yeah, she had to wear heels as well to like give her that like posture.
The high heels, and then they also gave her like the stub of a tail, and they had like people like miming a tail, like moving a tail around for some of the scenes and stuff. But one of the most interesting ones I thought was the toddler of Dren. And this is something they brought up in the creature design articles I was reading. They described her as having prey eyes at that age, and she totally does. As she ages, she goes from having the prey eye placement, which is on the side. If in case you didn't know, when an animal is a prey animal, it has its eyes on the side of its head, so it can like
on the lookout,
look all around to make sure it's not about to get murked. And predators have their eyes on the front of their fucking face,
so they can see the prey.
So they can see the prey, like my scary fucking murderer cat right here. If that ain't a prey animal, I don't know what is. Guess what? We also have our eyes on the front of our face, so which is an important part of the movie too, when they're like, "Oh, there weren't any aggressive animals that we put into her makeup," and they're like, "But we put humans."
Which is also a very silly thing to say because, you know, it's not that stingrays are particularly aggressive animals necessarily, but they
only
have
sting you if you step on them.
You know what I mean? And like
it's just a defense mechanism, though. They're not a prey animal.
Kangaroos are also out here being aggressive sometimes.
Okay,
so it's like
kangaroos scare me.
Kangaroos are very frightening.
Have you seen them when they have like human muscles?
Bulked up, yeah.
Seen that they will wade into like ponds and like sit there and kind of like pretend to like need help so somebody can help them and then they'll drown you.
What?
Yeah.
That's not what happened in Kangaroo Jack, but that movie showed how fearsome a kangaroo can be nonetheless.
I'm so upset. Okay, speaking of toddler Dren, remember that part of the movie when Clive drowns her?
And then she's alive because she needs to breathe underwater. I was like, and then Elsa's like, "Oh my god,
like,
you're so smart."
She's like, "You knew that, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I totally, I knew that. Yeah, bro."
It is rough out here because obviously, Elsa, I was going to call her by her actress name, but I'll call her by her character name. Elsa knows that she put her DNA into the mix, that it was her DNA that she used. So she knows that she is like going to have a connection to this creature that goes beyond just scientist and experiment and even inventor and invention. She knows that she has this like genetic relationship as well that does kind of make her functionally the biological mother in many capacities. Um, she also is, you know, it's not that she births Dren, but she's like prepared to deliver this. She's the one sticking
She
her
puts her
arm
arm right
in
in
there
there.
with the
Yeah.
sack. So there's just like so much going on in that sense, and then she takes on the caregiving real quick. And Adrian Brody from like moment one is very much like, get your arm out of that machine and we'll just kill it. Get out of that room. We're just gonna gas it to death. Like XYZ 1,000 times he's trying to be like, let's just kill it and move on because I'm scared of where we're going with this. And she just puts herself in, throws herself in front of it, arms out every single time, and is like, no, you can't. And it just gets really out of hand.
Because at times he's trying to protect her physically, and at other times he's trying to like protect them both from going to fucking jail.
Professionally.
Professionally, yeah. Like this is literally a fucking crime what they're doing, you know. It's
Yeah, no,
like
Only
a
this is
human
science
cloning
crime.
is a crime, Monica. This is different. So it's actually technically
partially
partial
human.
human cloning.
I wonder if like I don't think that Elsa knew that she was gonna have the reaction she necessarily had, but I wonder if it was also like a reaction to the child, the mutant child, the way that she did. But I also think maybe it was an experiment for her, like with her relationship with her mother in the back of her head, being like, okay, but could I parent this child that's not actually my
Could I
child,
be a mom?
or will I be like my mom, and who
Do
was a
I feel
bad
motherly at
mom?
all?
Exactly. So it was like maybe I think that could have been part of it for her. It was like, oh, this is a trial run to see how I feel. And then she felt more than she thought she would. But then we do see her, and obviously we don't know exactly what went down with her and her mom, with Elsa and her mother. But we do get a glimpse of that at the barn that they end up going to, the farm property, that she like slept on a mattress like on a floor with no like adornments in her room, and it looked pretty sparse and it looked kind of rough, and they obviously have a
She thought
very rough
makeup would debase
relationship.
you. Couldn't have
Yeah.
Yeah.
dolls.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really sad when like they walked into her old bedroom and it was like just a bed, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought you said she left it like exactly the way when you lived there." And he was like, "She did."
They did. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
also
And I
it
don't
was
want any
really
more questions about it.
but also it was like really funny when she was like, "It's okay, I have a farm." Like, how convenient.
And I've
So
never brought
fucking
it up
funny.
before, and I was never going to. And I just want to buy this dream house with you and pretend that none of my background ever existed, which is kind of why I maybe disagree. I don't know that she was trying to like test out her maternal instincts necessarily. I think she was just being like, well, we need a sample that is like clean for XYZ reasons. And I know that I don't have anything going on, so I'll just use mine. And I think that was part of her like willfully ignoring her background, which, as it seems based on what Adrian Brody is telling us later, includes a mental health history that she was not taking into account as a genetic factor for the DNA that she
Oh,
was
yeah.
using. And I think you could make an argument that that is like part of what is in play with Dren.
No, I could totally see that too. I don't think I think she was just trying to be pragmatic when she first did it, but then once
Once
things
she saw the
progressed and she
baby and
started
she's
to
like, I
be
made this and this is
she's
my flesh. And
yeah, and she was trying to, see how it would play
then I
out to have a
definitely agree.
child.
She
Yeah.
was like, this is an opportunity for me to do things differently and to prove to myself that I'm not like my mom. And I think that was like
Exactly.
definitely why she was ignoring the mental health history aspect of it, because she was like, well, I'm not like that. I'm built different. And it seems, I don't know her life, but it definitely seems like that is a part of her life she hasn't really worked through and kind of just like put away in a box
Yeah.
and tried to not
Yeah,
ever
with that
have to
picture.
acknowledge again, instead of ever like working through any of it. And so obviously like you see it come to the surface with Dren sometimes where like there are these moments when it's like Dren is not doing what I'm telling her to do. And I feel like there's like this thought in her brain that's like, well, my mom was a bad mom and I know this, and my mom was neglectful, abusive, whatever you want to, unstable, whatever your is going on there. My mom was these things, but at least she knew how to control me. And so in these moments when I need to control Dread and she's not listening to my gentle parenting, I'm like falling back on mommy's old tricks.
I also think that like because this was maybe in her mind, like I was saying, a trial run, she was like, okay, well, when me being nice isn't working, I'm just going to flip the switch to be like, actually, this is a science experiment. And it's been a science experiment the whole time. And I don't care about. I don't care about Dren. She obviously does, but she just like so often like just switches her vibe. She's like, "Oh, I'm not your mom anymore. I'm actually going to cut off your tail." Because that's what I would do as a scientist because it's putting like the whole experiment in danger because she is dangerous herself. Dren is dangerous herself. So I think it's just interesting how she flips the switch like that because you can't do that when you're like a parent to your child. You have to be their parent all the time. You can't just cut off their tail. I would never do that to my child.
You can't even declaw your cats. That's not
No.
nice.
No.
That's fucked. It's fucked up. I would love to have less scratches, but I would never do that to my baby girl.
She is trying to like go back into like science mode and like compensate for her complete switch up into like maternal mommy mode, and she's overcorrecting because that is obviously not correct scientific procedure either, to just
Yeah.
like restrain her and not give her any kind of sedatives or anything like that, just like belt her down to the table. And by the way, where did she get that? But
Oh yeah. Because the belts were so specific to Dren. They were like
they're like
two
so
for the
to
arms, two for
display
the
her in a
legs,
sexy way.
and one for the little tail.
Ugh.
Also, it really took me till like 3/4 through the movie that I realized she had hands for feet.
They're like little claws. They're like little bird
Yeah.
claws.
Yeah, the bird aspects of this. I loved her vocalizations.
Her
Yeah, her
wings.
little clicks.
Her wings were
Her
beautiful. They
chattering.
also looked like they did really look like fish fins at the same time. Like
They
they're
did. I thought that
Yeah.
obviously
too.
wings,
Yeah.
but they had a fish
Like the flying fish.
like
Mm.
a flying fish, like the beautiful like
Or
ornateness
like a
of like
lizard.
Mhm.
yeah, a lizard or of what's the fighting fish? What are those called?
Koi fish.
Oh,
Not a koi
beta
Oh, beta
fish.
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 Beta fish. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, koi fish too have beautiful fins. Um, yeah, I liked the design of the monster. I honestly thought that it was really fucking cool. And the butt crack head reminded me of VHS. And I was like, it's not gonna split open. But I kept thinking that it was. And I was like, I'm
Oh.
getting it confused. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
that monster design has similarities for sure.
100%. And then I was thinking that we should watch the spin off movie of that VHS vignette. You know, there is one?
Oh yeah, 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 where she had her own whole movie.
I,
Byron or
for a
something?
hot second, thought you were going to say a Splice spinoff. And I was like, no.
What do you mean? You're not in?
No.
I keep confusing myself all the time because like I think I like put Splice and Split into the same place and they
Is
were
it the
both
James
no
McAvoy
movies.
one?
That's the James McAvoy one where he's got like all the
Yeah.
different personalities and it's like not necessarily like it's like kind of
Well
like a
done.
fucked up portrayal. No,
Respectful.
honestly, no, it's not respectful. Yeah. But people fucking love that movie. They love Split. People go crazy, cuckoo bananas for it. I only
Haven't
have
seen it.
seen the sequel, Glass, which I fucking hate it so much. It's it's a M Night. It's an M Night
Of
thing.
course it is.
All right.
He's doing crazy shit. I'll watch it one day. But anyway, ah man, this movie. We're getting close to the parts. Okay, how soon? We're just gonna say it. How early in the film do you think that Clive wanted to fuck Dren?
I
Like,
think the dancing scene is when things changed. I don't
but
know.
I
what
think-
about the part when he's fucking Elsa?
Yeah,
I think he
and
just wanted to
they're
fuck at that
she's
part and didn't want to stop fucking.
yeah, I know, but she's watching them, and
It
I
is
would assume
inappropriate.
And he's
there's
like
a
watching
sheet, but they're making
her.
eye contact. You know, like
It was a weird, weird taboo.
I didn't like
thing.
it. It was icky.
No.
If that were a real human child, it would absolutely be sexual abuse. To be exposing your child to sex acts like that so blatantly. Um, However, I don't think for him it's about Dren in that moment. I think he is just, it's like he said, like it's been a while, and she's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize. Is that what happens when you're blah
No,
blah
he
blah?
wasn't
And like
trying to
obviously
fuck
he
in
wants her to
front of
say.
Dren. I don't think that. I just mean the fact that like the way he acts once he sees that she's there. It's not like he initiated sex in front of Dren on purpose. That's not what we're saying.
Right. I didn't think that was what you were saying, but I think
that was the moment when he
I
was
think
like,
something
"Ooh."
what
there could
lodged
be an
in the back of his
association.
head there.
He's
That's
like
what I'm
looking
asking.
at her and he's coming, and so he's like, now I have when I look at her, I think about what it feels like to come. Sure. But I think it was just like she's not a person to him. She's not a real living creature with autonomy to him. And he is so selfish and self-centered and self-minded that he was just like Sarah, not Sarah, Elsa would not like it if she knew that Dren was awake and watching us. And I am not going to tell Elsa because I also don't care about Elsa's wants or needs. I care about my own wants and needs. I need to get my dick wet right now.
Mm.
I just was like, at least close your eyes, bro. Ew. Anyway.
I
there's
think
no
he was trying to
saving
make
him.
sure she wasn't going to like interrupt. He was trying to like get there before the game was over. Is how it felt to me, at least.
It's I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Let's talk about the cat. The
I
cat part
at
upset
first
me.
thought she was gonna eat the cat.
Me too,
She
because
eats
she ate
the
that
rabbit.
bunny.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I can't watch if she's gonna eat the cat. And then she didn't. She's like, oh my God, I love this cat. See, she's doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Who can't love a cat?
When she's just like rubbing her face on the cat.
Mhm.
I know, but then she gets so aggressive later. Like, why do you think that she did that? She like didn't have object permanence and forgot what the cat was, and then thought the cat was a threat or something, or she just
No,
wanted to like be like, "Fuck you, mommy. I don't want your
Yeah.
gifts."
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
like
I
she was
mean,
having like a teenage tantrum.
Yeah, I mean that's in the Boners review, so I don't know if I'm just like taking what Boners is saying as absolute gospel, which it is to me. But
It is.
I think it was a little bit just like, oh, you think you can like take away from me and give back and I live at your whims? Like actually, guess what? I'm
live
the
at
top
my
bitch around here,
whims.
and don't ever forget that I have this killer stinger.
I'm surprised there's no scorpion in her because of the way that the stinger works. But anyway,
Yeah, what animal do we think the stinger comes from?
The
it's from the
stingray.
stingray.
Right.
But I looked it up in the
The
stingray
same thing that
stingers.
killed Steve Irwin. How dare
Oh my
Exactly.
they?
god, don't even I can't face that emotionally right now. But that's not how stingray stingers work. I looked it up. They don't have like a retractable fucking doodad.
Dick.
Not yeah, it's not a dick, okay, but it is phallic, just like everything else in the movie. But yeah,
It is
I
kind of
mean,
cat claw adjacent with the retractable aspect of it.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's good so it doesn't like kill people all the time by accident. When she's just excited and her tail's wagging like she's a little kitty. She doesn't go like stab, 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 stab. So I guess that's fine and dandy. But why did Jazz have to be so big of a part of this movie, and why did why did they have to bring Jazz into this weird mutant incest sex scene? Why did they have to do that? Let
To
Jazz
go back to the
go on
sexual
its own.
connotations, and the connections that they're making, Jazz was part of her conception, because they were stuck at the beginning when they were listening to whatever music, and they were dancing to the wrong beat. They had to mix it up so that they could come up with whatever combination allowed their human DNA to successfully splice into their already pre-spliced monster myths.
Another thing about this movie is that it was making me think of Oedipus. It's not exactly, but there's some Oedipus mixed in there. They're like, what if we do Frankenstein plus the story of Oedipus?
Sure.
And everybody's fucking both their parents and killing them all. And
Yeah.
it's just horrific. The sex scene was like really, it was just something so vile. It was just something so vile. And what could you possibly do to walk in on that as Elsa? Oh my god. Oh
Apparently,
my god.
according to IMDb trivia, that sex scene was cut down and much of the material was removed, and it was a lot more explicit originally, but then obviously critics were shocked and appalled. The director Vincenzo Natali discussed the intense pushback he faced over the infamous scene, and he explained, this is a quote, primarily it was a deal breaker for a lot of people, but he thought it was so essential to the movie, life, death, creation, sex, like how could you remove it? It's part of the story. It was so essential to the movie for him that he had it like written into the contract that scene could not be cut, because he was so scared that it was going to be cut even after the movie was finished. But he said, quote, it was the reason d'etre of the movie to me, not just because it's sensational, but
no way.
the reason for being. Yes.
Yeah.
Not just because it's sensational, but because I felt like if we're going to tell a 21st century retelling of Frankenstein, we need to push it into the 21st century. This was a story about life and birth, and sex was always going to be part of that equation. To dance around it would have been cowardly. That's what excited me.
I think that what's the point of the movie if you don't have this part also?
What's the point of the movie if he doesn't fuck his monster child? And if his monster child doesn't put her leg up so that she can be so up on him. That's crazy.
Also, the tail, using the tail to like trap him. Oof, crazy.
But also like all her little drawings of him also, like she was like, my man.
She also drew mommy though. She did draw mommy
Yeah,
too.
but we didn't find those drawings until later. So
I know, but it made it less crazy.
But yes, Oedipus, I haven't read Flowers in the Attic, but I know enough about it to know what its deal is. Do you guys know? Are you familiar with that at all? Flowers in the Attic.
Is that the incest one?
Yeah. And in that one, it's like this. They're like
right?
they live in the attic. The children live in the attic, and the like older brother and sister essentially start to function as like mom and dad to the younger siblings, and then their relationship turns romantic. But it's a part of the function of the fact that like, you know, would Dren want to fuck these two specific people? If she had options of other people to choose from, we don't know, but these are the only two people in her sphere as she reaches sexual maturity, I guess. And so those are, you know, the only options for her to be like exploring that developmental stage with.
I can't wait till the how could this movie be gayer part of this, because I feel like we're gonna have a lot of things to say that are like smart. But here's something stupid instead for me to say. Have you ever fucked someone so crazy that they had a hermaphroditic sex change spontaneously? Because how wild. I feel like that was it. She was like, wow, that's a real man, and I will be too.
She had penis envy for sure.
She was like, I love that thing. I love seeing that thing. I'm gonna get one. Thanks.
It was so interesting.
I kind of like it. I want one.
Her tail was sort of starting to be active in that sex scene as well. Obviously, we see like the stinger coming out as Elsa comes in. But I feel like that was her starting to be like, what if I had an appendage between my legs? But it's so interesting to me that they specifically get Dren on the table. They tie her down super, super crazy sexy style. But then they go, remember, she's not a sexy lady. When we cut off her dress, you're gonna be reminded that she is like a specimen and not a sexy lady, even though her nipples were, giving
Rock
sexy lady
hard.
nipples.
Yeah.
But they like break that down to try to remind you she's not a sexy lady, even if she's giving bedroom eyes sometimes. Um, but they don't establish until they're having sex that she has a pussy. And I really was not sure that she did until Adrian Brody, I guess, was having sex with her in it, I assume, unless he's just like fucking between her legs. I mean, we don't know,
Right.
but it certainly seems like he's inside of her.
No, yeah, no, she has that for sure. There was like some image with the with the monsters design thing where they're like showing what like it looked like under her little dress, and like I was like, "Oh, okay, so you had to make her like have a like hot six-pack abs kind of thing." And so there is definitely business going on between those legs. Another thing I have to say is this. I've been saying hermaphroditic. Hermaphroditic means having both genitalia, as we know, but technically, Dren is a sequential hermaphrodite. So that
Mm.
which makes sense. So it's like one and then the other.
Yeah.
So it's not at
Mm.
the same time. I
Time.
just because I was like that doesn't feel right. But anyway, I guess it still is the term, but you have to use that little sequential part
The
in
thing
there.
that's interesting about sea bass, and I don't remember enough about Jurassic Park to know if they ever talked about why um animals will sometimes switch their gender when they were talking about the lizard DNA that they use to splice in. But for sea bass, it's like it's called a harem of female sea bass, and then there's like one alpha male in it, and then if the male dies, one of the other sea bass will become male to take over that role. um and that is like kind of an interesting insight into what's going on in this movie when Dren later swaps genders and is like, I'm the alpha now, maybe allegedly, but obviously she's not like filling a position that has opened up so much as she is like, I'm taking over and then I'm gonna create the opening for
Well,
that.
she learned from daddy because he's so misogynistic and sexist the whole time that men rule the world.
Yeah.
Um, and so she was like, "Oh, well, I want to rule the world, so I'll be that then."
It is tedious in here and I need to switch things up, and I'm gonna give gender a first try with that.
I love that she was like, "But first, I'll die and I'll fake them all out." Oh my god, I just when tail end of this movie is just like even when they're having the incestuous sexy time with Adrian Brody, I was like, okay, it's wrong, but whatever. The
Wrong,
last
but the
part of
power of
this
jazz made
movie,
her too alluring.
and haven't we all been there? The power of jazz is just so wild. Not quite there to be so clear. But the thing is, the last bit of this movie is just like fucking wow. They just like it doesn't stop. What more will they take from us?
The way it
First,
truly goes to the very last minute of action packed until there's that like minute and a half closing shot, but
it's like that TikTok sound that's so popular. That's like bing bang boom bop bam. That's why I feel like I'm just being like beat to fucking
That kind of
shit
shit on you
by
wouldn't
this.
understand.
No one
that's exactly what
understands
Dren
what
was like.
happens
Yeah.
here. No one understands. Oh my god. It's just like immediately they're got like the jig is up immediately because they've been found out by brother and boss man. Thank you, baby. I thought the cat opened the door on her own, and I was like, her powers. She's
She's done it
become
before?
too powerful. She has, but the door was like fully latched. No, I haven't. Okay. Anyway, what was I saying? Sorry. I thought a Splice like scenario was happening where she was metamorphizing to have hands or something like that.
She gets found out at the lab because it's like, oh, they're gonna be fired if they don't synthesize the protein. So Elsa comes in at the last minute to be like, I'm gonna girl boss the shit out of this. You guys couldn't do this in weeks. Well, guess what? I've cut off Dren's stinger, so now I can do it in 3 hours. But then
Well,
obviously they're like, there's human
yeah.
DNA in here. This is obviously
Well,
not
Right.
from Fred or Ginger.
look how fucking far they've lost it. I thought that was a really interesting part of the movie because it's just like they've totally lost the plot. We already knew that, but my god, have they lost the plot? That it's not even occurring to her that like it will be so obvious that they got this protein from a fucking humanoid weird mutant thing, you know? Like, come
She's just so
on.
like, actually, this is gonna be even better, and they're gonna be glad. They're gonna, throw themselves at my feet and thank me for what I've done because
Yeah.
actually, this is an improvement. And so, maybe at first they'll be shocked, but then they'll go, "Can we put you on Time magazine next, Elsa?" Like,
Yeah. She is so far away from morality at this point. And obviously Adrian Brody is too.
it's kind of interesting when they do their presentation. She comes out in the fully white suit, which is so like, I'm good and I'm pure and blah blah blah. And he's in like all he has got the white tie, but he's in like all black. Like he knows what's going on is wrong, but she's like too lost in the sauce to see it at all.
No, she's like, we're gonna save people. And I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately, the way the world works, you have to follow the rules to get to that place. You can't just create
You can't break
a
the
horrific new
laws.
species.
I mean, you can, but there are going to be huge, 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 huge risks that come with that. And you're
Exactly.
risking a lot. And you've faced this a couple of times now, like when you brought her to the farm and she immediately ran away into the woods. And for a second, Adrian Brody was out here scared she was never going to come back until she was like, no, that's my daughter. She would never do that to me. I'm her mommy and she loves me and she's going to come back to me. Like, again, she's
Like, are
just
you?
too
How sure are you of that? Actually,
No,
both
it's
all
just
of her instincts are too like obscured by her other instincts. Like she can't be fully mom because she's got her science brain still going, and she can't be fully scientist because she's got her mom brain still going.
totally, yeah. No, it's just, it's, she's not thinking about what could possibly
That's
happen.
why
Obviously, what
you
happens
can't
is
do
so
surgery
fucking
on this boy.
crazy. But also, like, creating a whole new species could create a whole new disease. You know what I mean? Like, COVID, a bat mated with a chicken. No, I have no idea what happened, but a bat was involved. But it was fucking like something anomalous happened and it changed the entire world. So you're literally creating the mixture between a kangaroo and a horse. Even that would be crazy. And a stingray and a salamander and a fish and a human. Like
and a
there's
human.
so many things that could go wrong. So yeah, like maybe you get the protein that cures Parkinson's, but it creates the next one, you
But
know? So
your
like
Dren might get bird flu and then it mutates in her body, and
yeah.
now all of these different animals can get bird flu, and
No, if you
Right.
that
do
happens
radical
regular even without these
science,
like crazy scientific meddling and
yeah,
interventions.
out if you do radical science outside of a controlled environment, like you need that. You need that so hard. Like she's just lost the plot. They've lost the plot
Like, you can't play
completely.
God either. Like,
No. And I don't know why anyone would want to. Think of the responsibility.
ugh,
I'm not even sure about motherhood, let alone creating life from
right?
nothing. Like, oh my God. You could never catch me as Dr. Frankenstein. I'll tell you that right now. Uh, but it just, the end is such a fucking shitstorm. And I mean, I just think it's the perfect twist that he, that Dren changes into Svelte Man Dren.
It's
Um,
so handy that they picked a gender neutral name for Dren from the start.
Yeah.
it's the stupidest name of my entire life.
It is
What?
the dumbest name ever.
She was like, what should we call it? Nerd backwards? Dren. It was a Nilbog situation to bring it back
Right?
to Troll 2. I was cracking. I was so stupid. Um, but yeah, I mean, the 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 rape scene though was something that was really really difficult. They really take you all the way to the most horrific place. I mean, it's insane. And it honestly, like, it literally does become Oedipus at the end. It literally exactly does, except Oedipus was consensual. Not the murder part. But it's literally he like fucks his mother
Kills
and
his
kills
father
his father, you know? And
to be with his mother.
it's just yeah, but yeah, well, be with her in a different way than he was necessarily planning. But my God, I had read the synopsis before, but even that could not prepare you for visually seeing that.
And for it to be
It's
the
really hard.
stinger is a particularly difficult element to process. There's something about that is so much more horrifying to me than if Dren had just grown a dick. You know what I mean? But neither is a good option, obviously.
What? What do you mean?
He uses his stinger, doesn't he?
To
Yeah.
rape her?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Oh, I didn't notice that.
He uses it to pull down her pants and then
Oh, I knew he'd used it to pull down her pants, but I didn't know that that was the implement.
I think that's the
Anyway,
implement.
Yeah,
well,
I think it
so
goes.
glad to know. So it does poison and it does semen.
Once again, just like Edward Cullen.
I just wish you
It
hadn't have
all
said
goes
that.
back to Twilight.
It always does.
And like I also was crushing that one moment where literally she could have crushed Dren's head, but she hesitates for 1 second because she has
That's
that
her
feeling of
daughter.
motherly love, and then
Mhm.
she takes that 1 second to fucking murk Adrian Brody, and he's done in
Zip.
5 seconds, literally
Yeah.
direct to the heart. Too smart. It's brutal, man. It's so fucking brutal. It's so
It's
brutal. I could
hilarious. It's
jaw on the
hilarious.
fucking ground. It's like horrific. I'm glad it plays out this way though, because wow, something like this exists that is so horrible that makes everyone want to die. How interesting. They really went there. They really
They
went
said,
there.
we can do this.
We can do this. They
We can
said,
do
I've been thinking about
this.
this for 15 years. We're gonna do this. It's raison d'etre.
The ending is just so crazy though. The way, I mean, it feels obvious after the rape of what the outcome there might be. But when they are having the conversation with the boss lady at the end, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to continue the experiment, but secret, shh, don't tell anybody." It's like, what could it be? Dren is dead. Are they going to do another Dren? Blah blah blah. Cut to her pregnant belly. Reveal that dress that is so out of character for her. It's because it's a maternity dress.
Oh,
Like,
hated that.
it is
Ugh.
just
And that
wild. And the fact that she's
ugh.
her child's grandmother as well
Well,
is
alarming.
It is
crazy.
just
Crazy.
and she has to co-grandparent with a horse, a kangaroo, a fish, salamander. It's gonna be a full house. That's the sequel. It's a slapstick comedy, actually.
Ugh.
Oh my God. And like that ending shot is just like it's so not funny, but it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. When the French woman is actually way taller than I expected, by the
I
way.
know,
Did not expect her to
Yeah.
be so tall. I was like, hot
What a
French
twist.
mommy. Okay.
Last minute
But she's just
twist.
like standing behind her, holding onto her shoulders as they look out into the distance. And I was like, it's just so overly dramatic. But I guess properly dramatic because that what if they're diving into some murky waters. They're diving into some murky waters. And isn't it shocking that Splice 2 didn't happen?
I can't believe it.
Simply can't believe it because
I
wasn't this
mean,
movie beloved?
yeah, well, IMDb trivia actually does say while it was a flop, it has now become a cult classic with a cult following over the years since its
I'm
release.
part of the
So,
cult. I just can't believe it exists. Imagine me feeling this way about Splice and feeling the way that we all collectively did about The Hills Have Eyes. And like a lot of the things that I hated about that happen in this, but I'm like, it's different though.
It is different though.
It is different. Totally, it's different. See, I can like a movie that has a capital R scene in it, okay? But it has to be done so tastefully.
Just like they did in Splice. Yeah.
Anyway, laugh to keep from crying. It's time to talk about how could this movie be gayer.
Our segmentos.
Well, first of all, the ending with the boss lady, that's giving two lesbian moms for sure, especially
It
when she's standing with
really
her hands on
was.
her shoulders.
I don't
That
know,
really
giving
was.
For
gay moms.
being your own child's grandmother seems kind of gay to me, you know? Like,
I don't know if we should
I'm
wrap
carrying
incest
my child's child kind
Yeah.
of does have an element to
of
go with
chosen
what Sydney is
family.
saying.
Yeah.
yeah.
Of like surrogacy when you and your partner can't necessarily conceive through the traditional
No
means.
beans.
Okay, I don't co-sign any of what was just said. For the record.
Um,
The
I
gender
think
stuff was interesting.
the gender stuff for Dren is for sure interesting, but I would also like to posit that Dren is homophobic because Dren is so fixated on her male parent when she's a girl, and then as soon as she changes genders, she's like, well, actually, obviously, I'm now into my female parent, which is so like heteronormative of
It
her.
is.
And
Well,
I
that's
would
what
just like to
happens.
encourage Dren to,
Be more open-minded.
be more open-minded.
That's what happens
And
when you're raised by two straight parents. You need to have a queer influence in the home. And
At
if
all
only that
times.
gay horse that was a part of her makeup had been in the household, it really could have influenced her to get a little bit more creative with her incestual sexual choices. Are you guys offended as a listener?
This is a great movie for us, actually.
It is. I do find the concept of sequential hermaphrodism. What is that the way you say it? I think it's very interesting. And I think that it is something to be said that there are occurrences of animals becoming a different gender in nature. And I feel like, show it to Trump. It's for different
honestly,
reasons,
no, that doesn't
but
like it's so frustrating when people who are so opposed to so many elements of the queer community because it's not what God intended to completely ignore all of the other animals on God's earth. And I don't know, maybe the argument for that is like, well, we're not sea bass or whatever. And it's just like, okay, but again,
we could
there
have
are
been.
so
We
many
are an
things in the
animal.
world where humans are you not using anything that humans have created? Are you only ever using things that were in the Bible? Because I'm pretty sure you're using electricity every day. And so we are allowed to shape the world around us. It certainly seems like you're fine with that. So
And also, like, I don't know if this is being too like annoying, pedantic to put it in these ways, but like most of the time when there is like sequential hermaphrodism in nature, it's like to support life and to like keep them alive, and to keep their community alive. And that's the same thing as what it is for humans. It's to keep a person alive, to keep them being themselves. I don't know. I just think that there's so much to be learned from nature, and all of this stuff has been happening for 10 trillion billion years. Birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. This is an old song that I'm now quoting. But anyway, it's just like it's the tale as old as time, and everyone's acting like this is the first time that this has ever been brought up in the history of the world, and it's just the first time they've heard of it. It's just the first time they've heard of it, and they're freaking out because they're late to the game, and it's a rough time right now. But anyway, I don't know. There's just so much evidence to the contrary of what politicians are saying, and it's just like you shouldn't have to have that. You shouldn't have to have like scientific data.
they shouldn't have to see the movie Splice to realize what our world can be.
No.
Exactly.
It's just like you
But they
shouldn't
should have to watch the movie
that
Splice.
to want people to be able to feel good about themselves and feel good about who they are. But like, if you need the data, we also have that. If you need scientific data, we have the data as well. Anyway, that's how it could be gayer. Any more gay thoughts you'd like to share?
So
I
many
think
more
the
gay
brother's
thoughts.
gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gavin's gay. And I think maybe he had something going on with the lab boss. And I have
That's
no
why
supporting
he
evidence
told-
for
Looks
that.
so
other than
comfortable
they
in
did
that
a car
car.
ride together. Yeah.
What did they talk about for 2 hours? I don't know if it's 2 hours. No one knows the commute time. I really want to know how long this movie takes place. Like, what is the duration?
What's the time span?
The timeline.
I feel like
yeah.
a month or like 6 weeks.
He went from a scientist that Adrian Brody went from a scientist that was on the cover of Wired magazine to fucking his experiment in 1 month. 1 month. That's
1
how
month.
quickly
I
you
guess,
can
yeah.
fall.
Well,
That's
that's
how
my
fast it
thing.
can happen.
They are a little unclear with it, but I feel like it can't be that long or the lab would have been being converted sooner. She's like, she's still just kind of child sized at the time that they bring her down to the storage closet and then drown her in the big sink. But she's adult sized by the time she's leaving it. So like I don't know. It's again one of those things, Renesmee style. She just is growing super, super fast.
So crazy.
When did Breaking Dawn as a book come out? Do you think Stephanie Meyer had seen Splice?
I don't know if her Mormon little heart could take it.
Yeah,
It
in
came out
2008.
in 2008.
But the movie came out in 2011. It's just 1 year later.
Okay. No more gay thoughts? All right, Matthew Lillard. Where would he fit? I don't want to put him in here. Save him. Protect him. Protect him from Splice.
He
He'd
could
be great as
be
Clive.
the boss. Or no, I know exactly where I want him. I have a vision. I have a vision. Okay.
Speak.
He's one of the people in the audience that gets splattered by blood by
Oh,
Fred
in
and
the front row
Ginger.
splash zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so
I have a
good.
vision.
And then you get a close up on his face being like,
and you're like, oh my god, is that Matthew Lillard?
Matthew Lillard?
yeah,
Yes,
but then it
he
cuts
is.
away and you're like left wondering for the rest of the
He's
movie.
a patron of the sciences, okay? He's a patron of the arts. He's a patron of the sciences as well. Incredible. That works for me because I don't want him to fuck Dren.
No.
Sorry, Chelsea.
I mean, Adrian Brody is giving the performance of a lifetime. Sure.
Where is his second Oscar for this
For Splice.
It
role?
could be here.
That'll be his
Could've
third
been.
Oscar.
Obviously,
They're gonna this year they're gonna retroactively give him one. Yeah.
They'll be like, sorry, you didn't get it for the Brutalist, but we're gonna
They're
go
giving
back.
it to him for the Brutalist because they feel, you know how they do that thing where the Academy is like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis should have gotten it for XYZ role, so we're just gonna give it to her for Everything Everywhere All at Once. They're giving it to him for the Brutalist, assuming he gets it, because it was such an oversight that he didn't get one for Splice.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying how they do that, but whatever. It is what it is. I love Jamie Lee Curtis.
They
We're
just
not
get
getting
to a point
into
where
the
it's like,
Academy
it's
right now.
crazy that this person doesn't have one already, so
Let's give them
Just the
one.
way the cookie
just
crumbles.
give them one. And it's like, but what about the person who earned it this year?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to give them an Oscar in 30 years because they got
Who's perpetuating the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Dumb bitch.
There's so many.
Everyone.
No, what do you mean? Everybody is a scientist. They're all so smart. They're thinking so hard. They're nerds.
Clive and Elsa tied.
Yeah.
Tied. But a little more Clive because he's a misogynist and I hate that. But also Elsa.
Yeah, I was gonna
Elsa
say a little more
really,
Elsa.
a little more Elsa because
really
Elsa makes
got
it
this
happen.
ball rolling.
On
Clive
every
tried to
level, she
stop
was
it.
the one who got the ball rolling.
Clive
Yeah,
was
so-
screaming out. He was saying, if you let this alien mutant come to term, I will fuck it. And I need you to kill it before I fuck it. He was screaming out. That was the subtext.
For me,
And
it's
not
Elsa.
that- The brother, I don't think is like the most unbiased perspective, but he does have that line where he's like, say no to her. Like, you never say no to her. Say no to her one time about this.
Here's the thing. That's dumb because boyfriends should never say no to their girlfriends.
But that's how they get in.
But what if they're doing crimes against
Humanity?
morality that will, morality, humanity that will affect the human genome sequence in
Here's the
perpetuity?
thing. You're supposed to support women's rights and women's wrongs. They can be a dumb bitch while doing it, but you've got to support them.
Yeah, it's such a complicated issue.
I feel
But
like
it's
Elsa is
nuance.
number one, but we have to also give it to Clive because he fucks.
She's
her
the dumb bitch
friend.
of the movie, but he is a dumb bitch.
Yes.
Okay, second, right below, like this. One up, one a little low. Okay, 9s out of 5s. Break it down, Chelsea. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna rate this.
Nominated at least, right?
How many Oscars?
It's such an interesting movie for this. On IMDb, it has 5.8 out of 10. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 75% fresh from critics, 75 that is. And then from audiences, however, it has 37% rotten. In terms
I'm surprised by
of
that critic score. Damn.
Yeah.
Keep going,
no,
sorry.
they loved it. Or at least they thought it was like thumbs up as opposed to thumbs down. Again, that's what that means. However, this movie was a flop. It had a $30 million budget, and then I think I read that it made $17 million in the United States. And even internationally, it only made $27 million, so $3 million less than its budget. So it did not recoup its cost. However, it is a movie from Dark Castle Entertainment, and IMDb trivia says that it is the first and only Dark Castle Entertainment horror film to receive a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes of all of the horror movies that they've made. So that is fun. And then in terms of awards, at the 2010 Teen Choice Awards, this movie was nominated for Choice Movie Horror Thriller. It didn't win, but it was nominated. And then this one I think is really fun. At the 2011 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, it was nominated for Best Wide Release Film, Best Actress for Sarah Polley, Best Makeup/Creature Effects, Best Score, Best Supporting Actress for Delphine Chauniac, or however you say her French name. And then it was also for same awards, same Fangoria Chainsaw Awards in 2011, also nominated for Worst Film. So, that's fun. They're really running the gamut there. They said this movie is really bad, but it's also got some good stuff going for it.
I'm
nominated for Best Wide Release Film and also Worst Film. So
okay, hold on. Gear up. I was interested in this Dark Castle piece of trivia, so I'm just gonna go through and read some of their properties to you because this is a bangerang group here. Dark Castle, Orphan.
Splice, is that really rotten on Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't know. House of Wax, our fave.
Famously
Gothica, the fucking Halle Berry movie. I've never seen that. Ghost Ship, which I would love to do on this podcast. I was just talking about Ghost Ship over the weekend. 13 Ghosts. The House on Haunted Hill that came out in 1999 that I keep talking about how it's a big fiery trash hole. And then Return to the House on Haunted Hill, which I've never heard of, and that makes sense to me that would be rotten. But also Orphan First Kill. And the new movie that is coming out soon, Last Breath, which is that scary scuba diving horror movie that makes me really nervous because I want to get into scuba diving and I don't want to be put off from it because it's already a big time commitment. Okay. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Can't go first. Sydney, I feel like you always know. You go.
I'm giving this a 1.5 knives out of 5.
That's fair.
And the only reason is for Adrian Brody's nose. I gotta look at his beautiful nose for an hour and like 40 minutes. And that's it.
It's too bad that he is sexual
abuser apologist.
What is abuser
I hate
apologist.
That his beautiful nose is attached to that stupid man brain of his.
so many just insanely callous mistakes that feel thematic to the film. Except for the Sean Paul part, not necessarily, but I'm sure there's a read for
You
it
didn't see the
somewhere.
part of the movie where he did the Jamaican accent? That was such a big scene. Mid
What
sex
if
scene. He
what
just
if when
whipped it
they had
out.
what if then they had turned on the radio that one time when he like did that to cover up Dren's like screeching noises? It had been Temperature by Sean Paul.
Just a little
And, like,
Easter egg.
I would like to read a text that I sent y'all earlier today
Please.
to our beautiful listeners
Do it.
that just said, hold on. We text a lot. My God.
We do. Well, we were
I
talking
cannot
about this.
believe y'all made me watch Splice when I had zero knowledge of it.
Somebody had to, girl.
You could have lived your life
Had
in
to be
peace,
you.
but guess what, bitch? Not while I'm alive. It's my duty to pick the most disturbing movie possible.
I'm gonna
Remember when we
remember this
did
one day
Possession
and
last
I'm
year?
jealous, Sydney. I wish I could have gone in blind to this movie,
No.
but it was too late for me.
I'm gonna remember this one day, and I'm gonna be a whisper in your ear. Remember when you made me watch Splice?
And I'll go,
you'll
you're
do
welcome,
it soon.
bitch.
Yeah, I think every young woman should see. No, I
A
disagree.
coming of age story,
When
if
you
you
turn
will.
17, they give you 13 and they give you Twilight and they give you Splice and they give you Rosemary's Baby, and then you just have to figure it out from there.
I think that I would have hated this movie with every fiber in my being if I hadn't read the Boners post before it. I think that I would feel just like Sydney does, and I would be like disgusted and be like, what the fuck? But because of the Boners post, I was ready.
Excited.
I was excited. I was thrilled, some would say. And for that, I feel like I can't give this movie like higher than a 3. And I'm not saying I'm giving it a 3. I'm thinking out loud. I'm discussing with myself out loud to you.
She's processing.
But that's also hard because there's so many things about this movie I really like.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
okay,
there's, like,
when I
it's
read
good
that
in a lot of
review,
ways.
I read the review probably in, roughly speaking, 2010 or 2011, somewhere not long after the review came out, not long after the movie came out. And so I have lived with this review as an iconic piece of internet lore in my life for a decade, and it seemed so unhinged. Obviously, this movie is unhinged, but I was expecting a way less coherent film. And when I watched the movie, again, I was mentally prepared
Makes
for everything that happened in it, but I was like, this film is pretty well put together.
Yeah. Maybe I will give it a 3.
When
Maybe
you're
I'll
not
give
so
it a 3.5.
blinded by shock, yeah.
Maybe I'll give it a 3.3. There we go. I feel good about that. I'm going to do it. I'm giving it a 3.3 because I think that, like, should it have been made? I'm not going to say no, but I understand why someone would say no. I understand that completely. If someone said it's an abomination and it never should have seen the light of day, I get that. It is an abomination that never should have seen the light of day, much like Dren. Love her so much. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here. It really has a lot. The themes are theming. It's making me think a lot of things that I never wanted to think. Of course. Did I ever want to go there? No. But now I'm forced to, and I live in the world where I've been down this road, and I have to think about it, and we have to do a podcast about it because I made us, and I liked it. I don't condone what was done. I liked it.
Yeah.
It's wrong. I liked it.
I think the Boners' review is so like this movie is terrible. And so my expectations were just on the floor. And
Yeah.
again, like Sydney is saying, I think it is a lot to take in when you are blindsided by it.
Yeah.
But not that anybody should have to watch it more than once. I do think probably, again, if you come in prepared and if you are able to look for things, you can see that from a filmmaking perspective, they're doing good craft work in that sense. I think that, just does this movie raise like important questions that need to be asked? Not necessarily, but also not no.
Did we have to ask
Exactly.
these questions? No,
Right.
but we already did, so we might as well answer them.
But we might as well just get into it. Yeah, I think I'll probably go a little bit lower than Monica, but not that much lower. I'm gonna do like a 3.1. Because I was entertained. And it was kind of funny. And I'm glad I finally saw it for myself. So is it um a good movie that everybody needs to see? No. But if you're doing a monster fucker movie, this should be on your list for sure.
Yeah. I think that
It's
maybe
monster fucking for sure.
this could be a movie that would warrant a trigger warning. I feel like sometimes that might make people feel a little bit better, so I hope we don't hurt anyone's feelings who goes in blind, and I understand if we did, and I'm sorry, but read the bonus post. Maybe we'll put that front and center. Maybe we'll put it in the blog post for next week's episode to be like, hey.
It's for sure going to be in the references. Don't worry, you guys.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'll
That's
also
Splice!
include the glass figurine, so.
You did
Thank
Splice.
God we're moving on from Splice.
But what are we doing next week, Sydney? I'm letting you have it because I did this to you.
We're sticking with our beautiful, beautiful theme, right? And it's the end of the month. What movie could we do to end Monster Fucker February? The only beautiful monster fucker, and that's The Shape of Water.
We need something
Something
nice to
romantic to
soothe our
soften the
mortal
blow.
Yeah.
souls after Splice tore our humanity
Right.
apart.
I need a romance.
You
I
didn't
need
like
to
what
be
Guillermo
held.
del Toro gave you with this movie, so you'll have to
I
go to
need
one
a
of
better
Guillermo del
Guillermo del
Toro's
Toro
other
property.
properties. Yeah.
There was literally an article that was like, it's so interesting because Guillermo del Toro produced Splice, and then there are so many themes that he later on explores in his Oscar award-winning film, The Shape of Water. And I was like, can't take Splice and The Shape of Water out of the same sentence, but they
Maybe
innately are
Shape
in the
of
same
Water
sentence.
wouldn't exist without Splice.
Splice.
Another reason why it's good that it exists. Unfortunately, and I'm sorry again for saying it.
I've
I'm
actually
so
never seen Shape of Water
excited.
though, so I'm excited.
Oh, really? I watched it for the first time with my
Speaking of the
parents, which
Oscars.
was an interesting experience.
Oh.
I've only ever seen it once, and I remember nothing from it. So, but I remember liking it. So I'm excited.
I
Okay.
was like very moved by it, but you know how I feel about Guillermo.
Yeah.
And then my parents did not get it at all.
Shocker.
So that was hard. I was like, don't you understand the themes? Anyway, imagine my parents watching Splice.
They love it.
I don't want to think about it anymore.
I'm going to suggest it to my dad and be like, you should watch this.
It's a
I think
movie
that's
that
the right
a
call.
parent could watch, but a parent and a child should never watch together.
Watch together.
Just the horror of that statement. We're moving on. But anyway, I hope that you're okay. I hope that you, Sydney, are okay. I hope
I'm not.
everyone's feeling all right. Maybe you can write in a 5-star review. Actually, thank you for for making me think about things that maybe I never would have. Because wow, what an interesting thought process. What
I'm
an
so
interesting
sorry we made you
exercise
watch
for the
this.
intellect. Or yeah, you could write a 5-star review, but in the review say, "How dare you? That hurt my feelings," and confuse
5 stars
everyone, but
anyways.
still gave us 5 stars or a 5-star rating. I won't understand what you meant. Or you could just follow us on social media. We're at spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we're at Spooky Tuesday Pod. Go to www.spookytuesdaypod.com and you will find anything that you could possibly want to know about us. It is comprehensive as fuck. I'll say this now. If you're another podcast and you would like to do promo for promo with us sometime, like we play your trailer and you play ours. We have a trailer now and it's really sexy, so email us about it. You can do that on our website. Also, Why not look at us on YouTube? We all look really cute today, especially Chelsea, because she's Dren. And she did a really good
Involved.
job. You had the lip
But I'm
color down,
sexy, just
but
like
your
her.
eyes are more in the front of your face than her, which I appreciate because it would have been really scary if you had figured out how to make it look any other way. And
I'm
the
a
rest
predator,
of us are
baby.
just. She is a predator. That's for sure. That's true. Sydney and I are just wearing jaunty hats, and that's about it. But we look real good doing it, and you need to be on YouTube to see how disturbed Sydney looked the entire time. And you can only find that there. And yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, I have to say, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_, and our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.